Good morning, guys, or good afternoon, whether you're joining me from the present or the future. Welcome back to another FutureFight Vanguard video. I guess I really should be saying good night because it's super late right now. I'm trying to get all the videos that I can while I'm preparing to go to California this weekend for the regionals. So doing as much as I can with the workload that is in front of me. I have a lot of work to put out and stuff. Anyways, today we're going to be talking about V-EB06, so we're going to be starting on the new set. It is called, give me just a second. The new set that we are going to be discussing today is called Light of Salvation, Logic of Destruction. That's a mouthful, especially when tired. But yeah, so that's what we're going to be discussing today. Basically, the set contains Royal Paladin, Link Joker, Kagero, and Nova Grappler. All of the decks that come out of this set are pretty good, except for Royals, which they would have been really good, but Bushiroad limited them by ruling them a weird way. I'll explain that a little more when I go into it. But anyways, that's the deck that we're going to be covering today, so let's get right into it. Before we get started, if you guys like the video, be sure to leave a like on the video, comment down below letting me know what you thought of the video, your tips and tricks. I'd really like to know what you guys think of this deck specifically as well, just because I tried really hard to find a way to make it work for me. Also, be sure to subscribe, click the bell button down below, and so that you don't have to miss any videos coming up. Also, check out the Patreon and all the Cardfight Empire exclusive stuff that I'm starting to put up on there, from my deck lists, pre-tournaments, and stuff like that. I'm putting all that on there, so look forward to that. Sorry, I had a hiccup. But also, shout out to our sponsor, Dabbers Cards and Games, local card shop in Georgia. They do a lot for the community, and they have a lot of merchandise from Japan. Pokeballs, sleeves, deck boxes, you guys name it. They have singles for Cardfight Vanguard as well, so be sure to check them out if you're ever in Georgia. Swing by. They're located in Chamblee, Dunwoody, part of Georgia. So if you guys live in Georgia, go check them out. If you guys are swinging by Georgia, check them out, especially before regionals or something. If you guys can't visit Georgia or you can't check them out directly, be sure to check out their link down in the description below. But like I said before, let's get right into the video. So we're loading up the video. So we actually strange build. So I guess don't knock it until you try it, because it is like strange, but this was the only way that I could kind of sort of make it work. So let's talk about it. So first we have 3 Arc Saber Dragon. This is one of our grade 4s, that's why I said 4, but this is one of our grade 4s in the deck. We run 2 grade 4s, the other one being Exculpate the Blaster, which you guys should already know what that does, but I'll go over it anyways. But Arc Saber is the card that they screwed over by ruling it a weird way. So basically, the way that this card was supposed to work was that its second ability, when you counterblast 3 and soul blast 3, and then you get to call a blaster from your deck, drop zone, soul, and damage up to a total of 3 cards, and shuffle your deck. So that was supposed to be able to call a face down card, like it's been able to do in the past, but I guess for the V-Series one, they ruled it in a weird way and said that face down cards in the damage zone have no information. So aka they can't be blasters, aka they can't be called unless they're face up, which is absolutely terrible because Royals already don't have a counter charger. Even though you don't use that many counter blasts in this deck, like still it's not healing off of true damage, because if you're at 3 damage, you basically can't use the skill effectively to heal off of damage, and that's part of its whole gimmick, is to heal off of damage. So also the fact that it says you can only call up to 3 or less cards, like it would be cool if you could call one from deck, drop zone, soul, and damage, like one from each zone. That way you could like at least replenish your board against like Kagero, which is in this set, and Shadow Paladin when they board wipe you. So that would have been cool to do, but unfortunately they messed up with the ruling. So Hopefully they do something to fix this deck in the future. It's just a little weird for Royals to not be good. But let's talk about the first ability of Arcsaber Dragon. It happens on the Vanguard circle and while it's in the hand. If you have a total of 3 or more types of blaster on your Vanguard and drop zone, this card gets -1 grade. So it actually becomes a grade 3, which is why we're able to get away with running only 4 regular grade 3s, because a lot of the time, once you ride into your first grade 3, Arcsaber will be a grade 3, or if you're lucky and you start the game with like a Blaster Blade, a Rapier, and an Arrow, or like some combination of that, if you don't have anything but Arcsaber in your hand, you can actually go to double intercept with the other Blaster grade 2s, and then you will have 3 different blasters on your Vanguard circle and or drop zone. So very cool. The second ability, even though I already explained it, is Counterblast 3, Soul Blast 3. Choose up to 1 card with Blaster in its card name, each from your deck, drop zone, damage zone, and Soul, up to a total of 3 or less cards. Call them to rearguard and shuffle your deck. So pretty simplistic, kind of bad. Let's move on. To exculpate the Blaster, this is also a grade 4. So we run 5 grade 4s technically and 7 grade 3s technically, but that's not the real number. It's 5 grade 4s and 4 grade 3s, but we're counting for the fact that Arcsaber can be a grade 3 sometimes. So yes, and you don't have to worry about not being able to Arcsaber after you exculpate, because exculpate always goes back down to Blaster Blade, which is if you're using it properly. If you're not using it properly, you just lose the game. So there's no way that you shouldn't be going back down to Blaster Blade after using exculpate. But exculpate the Blaster skill is Counterblast 1 when placed, and choose 1 card from your soul. All the other cards go into the drop zone from your soul, and when this unit attacks during this turn, it battles all your opponent's units. So pretty cool board wipe in the form of an attack, and then also it's a re-standard because it re-rides into Blaster Blade. So the secondary ability is at the end of the battle that it attacked, you put 2 cards from your hand into the soul, you retire this unit, and you ride a Blaster Blade from your soul stand, and if you could not ride, you lose. So obviously, like I said, you should not be using exculpate unless you already have a Blaster Blade in the soul, or you have a Blaster Blade in your hand to shove in there post-battle. So yeah. Moving on, we have 4 of our new grade 3 Psionic Lord Blaster. I wish that they made this card a little better. Just like, you know, I feel like there's a couple key cards, I'm going to keep mentioning this, that they really screwed up on, like, that would have made this able to contend with the other decks in this set. Arcsaber should have been able to heal a damage. Psionic should have been able to call to an open or closed rearguard circle for its second ability. What else do I think? And I think all the blaster cards that have the, if you have 6 types of blaster, all of those should have been 5 or more types, considering that when you're on Arcsaber Dragon, it doesn't count towards your blaster count at all. So a lot of your cards, like, you end up getting like a full board on Arcsaber turns, but it doesn't even matter because a lot of them can't get their effects. So it just like, it's like a deck that stabs itself in the foot, kind of. It's just really weird. But Psionic Lord Blaster's Vanguard skills are the following. So the first one is during your turn, if you have 6 or more types just 6 types of blaster units, then this unit gets the original power and critical of all your rear guards. So something pretty cool about this, it is pretty gimp and pretty lucky to get it, but if you set up a field of blasters up to like 3 different blaster rear guards, and then you drive check 2, you're actually able to play them to the field because of the secondary ability that says when your drive check reveals a card with blaster in its name, you may call it to an open rear guard circle. So you can actually call the missing rear guard blaster pieces that you're missing, and then since the Psionic Lord Blaster is a continuous skill, it will go up by, you know, a bunch of power, and then it will also gain 5 critical. So you could just end your opponent right there, which is pretty cool, but almost never happens. Moving on to our grade 2s, we have 4 Blaster Blade. This is the cream and, you know, the what is it called? The bread and cheese of this deck. Cheese and bread of this deck or something like that. Oh, bread and butter. Bread and butter, that's it. The bread and butter of this deck, Blaster Blade. So turn 2, you really want to rush riding this card on your Vanguard circle because it has a Vanguard only ability that says if you have 4 more rear guards, this unit gets +1 critical. Not hard at all. Pretty simplistic. Want to get your opponent to high damage so that you can hopefully end them with this deck. So secondary ability is when placed counter boss 1, soul boss 1. Choose one of your opponent's rear guards in the front row and retire it. Pretty good if you need to bind or retire something in your opponent's front row. That's really important. Moving on to our next grade 2, we have 4 Blaster Rapier. Blaster Rapier is actually one of my favorite cards in the deck because she suffers less from the whole not having 6 blasters thing. She just, you know, gains extra power if she has 6 or more types of blaster. So if you have 6 or more types of blaster card name units, then it gets 15k shield, or sorry, 15k power on the rearguard circle. And then the other rearguard ability is when it attacks a Vanguard. If you have a Vanguard with Blaster or Arc Saver in its card name, you get the top card of your deck and put it on the top or bottom. So pretty good. You get to like set up triggers on defensive and offensive. Like let's say you have 2 Rapiers in the front row, then you get to look at top before you attack and look at top after you attack, being able to set up like draw triggers and stuff like that, because we do run 8 draw triggers in this build. Then we have 4 Blaster Arrow. Blaster Arrow has 2 rearguard abilities. The first one's a continuous ability. If you have 6 types of units with Blaster in its card names, they cannot be chosen by your opponent's effects. So this helps you really get around like control, resist, control, Shadow Paladin. It doesn't really help you get around Kagero because they have Kimnara, and if they proc Kimnara, you just lose your whole board because you can't target, which is really crappy, but at least against other things, Blaster Arrow protects your rearguards. Then its secondary ability is when placed, if you have 3 or more types of units with Blaster in its card name, discard a card from your hand and then search for up to 1 Arc Saber Dragon, reveal it, put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. So pretty easy to get into Arc Saber just because Blaster Arrow directly searches it. Moving on to our grade 1s, we have 4 Blaster Dagger. Blaster Dagger says if you have 6 types of units with Blaster in its name, all of the Blaster units get boost. And then the other rearguard ability is when your Vanguard's attack with Blaster or Arc Saver hits a Vanguard, you may return this card to your hand. So it can become extra shield after boosting. After it's done its job, it can bounce back to hand and increase your shield in your hand. Then we have 4 Blaster Javelin. Blaster Javelin's first ability is during the battle that it boosted. If you have a Vanguard with Blaster or Arc Saver in its name, this unit gets plus 2,000 power. Pretty simplistic. Becomes a 10k when boosting if you have a Blaster Vanguard or a Arc Saver Vanguard, which you always should have. And then the secondary rearguard ability is when it boosts, if you have 6 units with Blaster in their different card names, choose a rearguard in your opponent's front row and bind it. Like I said, you almost never really get off the condition for the 6 or more Blaster units, so it is just kind of crappy in that way. However, you can try. Then our last grade 1 of the deck is 4 Knight of Heroic Sword Lucius. Lucius really just helps us dig through our deck for our pieces. That's why we run 8 draw triggers as well. We're just really trying to get to our pieces in this deck, and once we get to our pieces, we could like end the game through various means. Exculpate, we could, you know, Messianic Lord Blaster for 6 crit, do any of those things. But Lucius's skills: when your grade 3 or greater is placed on Vanguard circle, put this card into your soul, draw a card, and call a card from your hand or rearguard. So this card is also very good for building soul for a second Arc Saver, should you have the ability to use the second one. I really doubt it just because of the ruling, but you know, to each their own. But we run 1 Grime as the starter, which is the draw 1 dog, and then we have 4 critical, 8 draw, and 4 heal. 4 of our draw are the Sentinel trigger, and 4 of them are not. They are just regular Margles. So with that being said, we're gonna get right into the games here. So we're loading MLB1. We're playing against Kagero first round, it appears. Our opponent goes first to rides. We ride, we attack. Damage check ammo. Plays down kind of a board. And then we guard. We attack. We check the top card. It's a draw trigger, so we do put the power to the rear guard. And he takes 2 crit damage because of Vanguard. And then he starts blowing up our cards. He attacks Vanguard for 13. We ride Messianic. We get a draw and a heal, so that's pretty good. He uses the new Overlord card to search, and then he does check double critical, so I'm like, wow, pretty blessed. But we do get a draw trigger as well, but we were forced to take the attack. We take the attack mainly because we wanted to be able to Arc Saver properly, So we attack for 18, 32 draw trigger, crit trigger, and then we attack 48, checking the top card, putting it back on the top. So we PG the Vanguard, then we PG the Vanguard, and we take our damage. We ride Messianic, we attack, and that ends up being the game because he cannot handle the extra attack from what Messianic called to the board. Loading MLB2. We have Beastie, the White Tiger. This is from the new Nova Grappler. The new set from Nova Grappler, or like this set where Nova Grappler gets support. We do use Arrow to discard an Arc Saber to get an Arc Saber just to thin our deck for triggers. We start going ham on our opponent because they are Excel. We play down the extra blaster unit from our hand in case we got like blaster dagger or something like that. Our opponent did no guard too, so we would have been able to like hit the Gimp correctly. But our opponent is attacking us Nova Grappler turn. We do exculpate, and basically this is the moment where I was like, oh, he, you know, pretty much he or she pretty much loses just because they're playing a rearguard based deck, and yeah. But our opponent tries to survive for as long as they can. Obviously we're playing force, so it doesn't really like matter much. And then our last check is a draw trigger. Our opponent draws like his entire deck very fast so that he doesn't have to like give me the win or anything, even though I already knew that I was gonna win. So that was kind of crazy. And then loading up MLB3 here, we're up against Deleters. Deleters rides goes, I ride, I attack, I get a heal, he gets nothing. I attack, he gets a draw trigger. So I attack with Rapier, top, for a draw trigger, power to Vanguard draw. He attacks my Vanguard after deleting me, 2 crit, and then we ride Messianic, attack for 31. We just play the Rapier down on the rearguard circle. Our opponent, we take a damage, and then we guard that last attack. So we do ride into Exculpate, doing the skill, getting a draw trigger, putting 2 cards in, getting a card out, attacking with our last remaining column, and attack for 28, power draw. So we go ahead and we use Arc Saber. Arc Saber calls out 3. And yeah, we end up taking the game from our opponent just like that. So but yeah, that ended up being the last game. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, like I said in the beginning, be sure to do all that crazy stuff I mentioned. I'm too tired to give an actual outro, but I promise you guys that I will see you guys on the next one. Peace, guys.